A few weeks ago, I released my raw files for you to play around with as part of the editing challenge. And since then, I've been receiving a lot of questions on how do I edit my lowlight photos. So in today's video, I'm gonna show you the basics on how to do it. So let's get started.
1, 2, 3, funk it.
This is the photo that we are going to edit today. Just to give you a quick background, this photo was taken back in July 2019 as part of my first ever collaboration with the sought-after lowlight photographers here in Manila, namely Jao, Gab Loste, and Jeffrey Capilitan. We were also graced by the beauty of our friend Judith Sumalbag as our model for that night. This was actually a test shot, and that explains why my settings were off. And as you can see with my next shot, I was able to make adjustments as I boosted my ISO to 800 and slowed down my shutter speed to 80th of a second. Few important notes: I shot this with RAW format using my Nikon D750 with 50mm 1.8G lens, and as most of us know, Nikon D750 is a known beast in low light, and having it taken in RAW format would give us better range in editing. Okay, so we'll start with boosting the shadows, blacks, and most importantly the exposure. And as you have noticed in my histogram, we do have a lot of whites and highlights, so I will be decreasing both of them. And I like to decrease my contrast, but I will apply texture, clarity, and the haze. I also like decreasing the saturation but boosting the vibrance. Right, the next part is I will go down in luminance in HSL. But before we proceed, I would just like to give a quick disclaimer that I would suggest not to copy the exact settings that I have here if you're using a different photo, as each photo would have different colors in them. So I'm just gonna breeze through this one. Okay, next stop is tone curve. And what I'll do is I will not touch RGB yet, but instead I will play around with red, green, and blue individually. And I'll start making points with shadows, midtones, and highlights, and that will be the same for each color. Now, what I do is make an S-curve, and I'll make sure to match it with green and blue so it will create contrast to the image. And I'm gonna breeze through it. So as you see, it had created contrast, but we're gonna deal with the colors later. So I'm just gonna make some minor tweaks to my taste. So the next part is I will be separating my subject to the background, so I'll do that with the most important tool that I use here in Lightroom, which is radial filter. So I'm going to create one covering our subject, so make sure that it's inverted. I'm going to put exposure, highlights, and shadows. I'm going to create another one that would cover the face and the neck. Third part, just for the face. And to isolate the subject from the background, I'm going to create another one to decrease the exposure of this section. And also this part. Alright, so we're done with the first part, which is correcting the exposure, and now we're gonna proceed with the second part, which is color grading. The first thing that I adjust is the white balance, and since I do see a lot of pinks in the image, I'm gonna reduce the tint to green. And since I feel that the image is kind of warm, I'm gonna decrease the temperature a little bit. Alright, the next part is the hue in HSL. So I'm just gonna breeze around and play with the sliders. So the next part is saturation. I'm just gonna play around as well with the sliders to have a more balanced look. Okay, so this looks more balanced. Now I'm gonna scroll down to calibration. I'm gonna play around as well with the colors. Okay, and now we're gonna scroll up and go to split toning. So as I see here in the shadows, there are dominant colors, which is the magentas. So I'm gonna put in a green shadow. And since it's kind of warm, for the highlights, I'm gonna use a blue highlight. And since that the shadows are more dominant than the highlights, I'm gonna decrease the balance to shadows. Okay, that's it for color grading, and our last stop is sharpening and noise reduction. And the key to sharpening is not to overdo it, so I will just make minor adjustments. Prefer sharpening just the edges, so I will use masking, and by holding the Alt key on your keyboard, I will drag the slider to the right. And since the noise is not that visible, I will just put a little noise reduction. Okay, that covers my basic Lightroom editing tutorial for low-light photos, and after this pretty much I'm gonna play around with the RGB tone curve and import this to Photoshop for skin retouching. Alright, so here's the before and after and the final image. Alright, that's it. Thank you so much guys for watching my video, and if you guys liked it, be sure to leave a thumbs up and let me know what you think by leaving a comment below. And be sure to subscribe to my channel as I will be posting more contents in the future. And again, wash your hands, stay indoors, and if you need to go outside, practice social distancing. And we would like to thank all the frontliners and medical workers who's working very hard during this pandemic. See you guys soon.